want to welcome everybody. I'm so grateful that you are here because I know who you are. If you're here for this, there is a deep resonance in your heart to the Magdalene and to the rise of the Magdalene. And so I am very, very grateful for your presence here. And we're going to be diving into a really interesting and passion of mine. I'm making the sacred alive in us and bringing the science to back it up. So when I began to discover what Dr. Joe Dispenza was doing in the HeartMath Institute, and I started to hear that, oh my God, this sounds very familiar to what I'm reading and studying in the Gospel of Mary Magdalene. So my tag for this event is Dr. Joe Dispenza meet Mary Magdalene. And this seminar is the blending of what makes the sacred alive in us. We're exploring the mysteries of the Gnos, or the divine mind, and understanding the Gospel of Mary and what it's trying to say to us. And I am so excited about this. I have found some of the latest research that is being done by people like Dr. Joe Dispenza and the HeartMath Institute. And this bears out the what is laid out in the Gospel of Mary Magdalene is the ascension steps that Mary Magdalene took. And we actually have the book. We have the information, the papyrus of what her process was. So I will be able to show how her awakening process is now being validated by the science. And she really became and is the living demonstration of a fully awakened, what in the Gospel of Mary Magdalene talks about, an anthropos human being. And the way I've designed it is this is 6 classes that we're going to be offering. I am doing it on the second and the fourth Wednesday of the month. In preparing for this class and the depth and the volume and what it took for me to put the research together, to, even though I've been studying for over 10 years, the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, and I have a wealth of understanding and research, this is beyond a level that I've ever really done before. It's like bringing forth the new. It's like birthing a baby, So, because I've never seen anyone do this kind of research of this particular way that you'll see today. So, and start the second class will be resuming on April 27th, and you'll get a notice about it, because we also have on April 17th the Magdalene Moonrise service, and then the amount of time that it takes to produce and launch. And I'm just one person here, although I've got some people. Claire, thank you so much. She's agreed to come on and help me with being a co-host of them, and then we'll have a Q&A at the end. We can go through it. But let me introduce myself for those of you who don't know me. On 10/10/10, I was ordained a priestess of Mary Magdalene in the Lyceum of Sophia. I consider myself a mystic, but I also have a master's degree in clinical psychology. And I did my research really studying the comparative religions and how comparative religions influence the modern day psychology. So I've always been interested in the ancient and the Eastern philosophies and how they match up. And Elizabeth Kelley, who's a priestess of the Holy Order of Mary Magdalene, introduced me to the Gospel of Mary Magdalene. And she was the one who also ordained me in her Lyceum of the Sophia, which was life-changing for me. It's just like rocked my world and took me to a whole nother level, incredible level of joy. And so Elizabeth introduced me to the gospel. And after my ordination on 10/10/10, I began to have visions. And one of the visions was to have a ceremony, and I saw it plain as day, all the pieces, everything came in, to honor Mother Mary for her consciousness to conceive, light, and birth of God. And a month later, I was standing in a room with 100 people leading this ceremony as if I had always been doing it. And that was my first introduction to the guidance, receiving the guidance and the mysteries of what was being asked of me to become my own sacred self, right? So when I took on the daunting task of studying the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, which is only 18 pages long, or 19 altogether, and it was still written in the ancient way of understanding, which was totally Greek to me at that time. And so I decided that what I needed to do is I needed to take the time, the spaciousness to really dive in a more Jungian way. And so I ritualized the experience. I took a group of people and we went through it methodically, every month, taking a section or a page. We created a ritual around it. We did a deep dive into what is it saying. We meditated on it. We contemplated it. And as I did this over the year, we found that reading these words, they contained a vibration. The Sanskrit oftentimes talks about this, that there's a vibrational resonance. That's why when we chant mantras or chant Sanskrit chants, kirtan, things like this, there's a resonance or vibration or a higher frequency that happens. And I was noticing it was really impacting me and transforming me and changing me. And so it just brought me to a whole new level of joy and connection with her. And I could feel this shift. So I had a chance to talk to Joseph Rowe. Now, Joseph Rowe translated the Gospel of Mary Magdalene from Leloup's version, which is the one we're using today, which is Gospel of Mary Magdalene. I like this translation because it's more about oneness. There are other great translations out there, but they're more about father-child relationship. And I like the idea that of the oneness and the unified field theory and whatnot. So I went with this particular version, and Joseph Rowe translated Leloup's French, because Leloup translated from Coptic to French, and then Joseph Rowe translated to English. And when I was talking to Joseph, I said to him, this is what my experience has been. What do you think about this? And he looked at me, he said, I'm a scholar of a pretty high level, and I've translated the Gospel of Thomas and a whole bunch of other works he rattled off that he'd done. And he said, but the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, it woke me up. So he was also finding that there was something very powerful in what was being said there. So in the meantime, I'm also a Course in Miracles student, and I'm listening to the Course in Miracles, right? And as I hear in one class one day, the Course in Miracles being read, I'm listening, and I'm thinking, wait a minute, I just read that in preparation for my Gospel of Mary Magdalene class. There it was, word for word, in A Course in Miracles. So I made note of it, and I've got the whole course from beginning to end marked up with every time the Gospel of Mary Magdalene shows up in A Course in Miracles. And that's a whole nother class and body of work that because what's happening is that we have missing pages and we have fragments where a word is gone or whatever, but we have the concepts. We have enough to be able to really understand what was happening to her. And then what happens is the Course in Miracles, when I see one of her sentences, almost word for word in A Course in Miracles, the Course in Miracles goes on to explain what it means. So it helped to fill in the missing pieces. So that was really exciting to hear and to be led on. So the same thing happened when I started to follow and track the work of Dr. Joe Dispenza and the HeartMath Institute. I was like, whoa, I'm hearing the Gospel of Mary Magdalene within their body of work. So something's going on here. So I wanted to really take the chance to document it. And you guys are the first to hear on the planet, first time ever, this new connection. So I'm very excited about what we're going to do. So now we are going to be a group. And so I just want to lay a couple of requests down. And some of you I don't know at all. So I'm hoping everybody's in agreement with respectful communication. We're basically not here to fix anybody or to learn. We want to learn to see our wholeness and to interact with people in a wholehearted way. The first thing I want to do here is we're going to start by opening sacred space, because when we invoke the sacred, And if you have a candle, you can get your candle now. That would be awesome. So I'm going to light my candle. And as I do, I'm going to ask you to take 3 breaths in and place your hand on your heart, because you want to spend time in opening a sacred space to cultivate a feeling in your heart and to focus on what is your passion. So as we take this moment, take my candle, and hopefully you have your candle as well. And we just begin to take a deep breath in and just relax and let go. As we take another breath in, and just putting your hand on your heart, it helps to activate, because what we're asking the heart to do is we're asking the heart to come forward and be the wisdom of our mind, and let that be the way that we access this greater wisdom that will be imparted to all of us, me included, sharing with you, and so that we may focus on what it is for us to do. Thank you so much. Blessed be. Thank you. Now, what I decided to do, because there's so much that I could do, I could have gone to, the history, how did they get discovered and all that. And I'm going to do that in one of the other classes down the road, because I think we should just get right to the heart of the matter, right? We should just dive right in to that which is near and dear to Magdalene's teaching and her experience, so that we can begin to cultivate and work with that. We're going to start right out the chute. We're looking at the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, the primary fundamental teachings of the Gospel. And the reason why we want to do that is because there's a core teaching that allows us to really enter into a state of consciousness that can impact us. And this is part of the reason why I call my business the Magdalene Impact, because of this impact that as I began to study, first I was shocked to find out that she had a gospel. I was like, how come nobody told me about that? Well, we really only have had the gospel readily available to us since 2000. There were translated copies before that, and we'll go into the history of how it all came to be and all that in the next class. But so we haven't had that much time. So there are not that many people that really know what's in her gospel. So let's take it away. So the very first thing that's incredibly important to understand is Mary is talking to the disciples, and they're questioning something. They're like going, wait a minute, what's up here? She seems different. She's like privy to some information that Jesus taught her that he didn't teach us. And how come he didn't teach us? Because he shouldn't be even talking to a woman anyway. I don't understand why Peter is always complaining about why he would let Magdalene in the inner circle. It was like he was just shocked and really did not want to let go of his belief structure that women were less than. So he confronts her and says, I want to know what he taught you. And he does it in a very gentleman way. So everybody thinks, oh, isn't Peter being kind? But he's not doing, he has an ulterior motive as to why he's doing it, because he wants her to spill the beans, so to speak. Because he can tell something's happened, but he doesn't have the eyes to see nor the ears to hear. So she tells him the truth. Mary said to them, I will now speak to you of that which has not been given to you to hear. Why? Because Jesus was trying, but they didn't have the ears to hear. And then she goes on, I had a vision. Well, the first clue about this is that meant that she did the inner work. she was paying attention. And she was the one that was sitting at Jesus's feet, hanging on every word, really trying to grok and understand what he was, and taking it in with deep love, deep compassion, open-hearted, wholehearted way. And Martha is like going, what are you doing? Why isn't she not helping me in the kitchen? And Jesus says, no, she's doing the right thing. And so we know that she was really attending to the work of what the master was trying to teach. So then he goes on and he says, this is why I tell you, be in harmony. Now, I'm going to be jumping around to different points, but there's a reason for my doing that, because I want to illustrate some things to you that I think will help with clarifying and understanding. So this is why I tell you, be in harmony. Being in harmony means that you're experiencing heaven on earth, that you're in what we would call this wonderful chart that kind of illustrates it, being above the line. Being above the line means that you're in acceptance of what is, you're at choice, you have freedom to love, and from your choice of love, you respond instead of react. You are looking for being 100% responsible because you understand that you're connected to source, which means you're at cause because you have a direct connection to source. And so for that, you are able to access clarity. You are able to take actions that are based on real solutions. And I always love it. You'll find out through the course of these classes, some of the solutions that I've gotten from being in this process. That was like, wow, I never would have thought of that in a million years, right? But when you tap in, you get the right guidance. And so then life becomes abundant. So you're living in a higher consciousness, creativity, and living energies. This is what we're talking about, the sacred living energies of life. That is so much more fun, you guys. It's like, it's the best to me. Rather than below the line, thinking, which is full of judgment, and you have to judge, you feel like a victim, you know, you're running on fear, you have excuses, you feel like you failed, you're procrastinating, and everything's a problem. It's like you're feeling at the effect of everything, and you want to blame somebody, like it's their fault, or this government did this, and and so you react instead of respond in an appropriate, loving way to things because you're below the line. Well, what I've come to learn from studying the gospel so intensely is that Mary Magdalene was the living demonstration of one who lived above the battlefield. Her gospel, we have so many great examples in it of how she did that. And that's what we're going to attempt to illustrate to you as we go through this 6-class series. So she was able to master, and she was a real master. In fact, I think, people say, well, it's because she had sex with Jesus that she's become so popular lately. Well, yeah, maybe, and that could be part of it. But really, to me, it's that she became an enlightened master, and we began to realize her enlightenment, and that made all the difference in the world. So, Dr. Joe Dispenza, please meet Mary Magdalene, because she is mirroring what you are teaching your students to do. She did it. She would have been one of your A students. And her living demonstration is indicated in the Gospel of Mary Magdalene. The lines are right there, and we're going to go through them. Exactly what you're teaching, she was the living demonstration of that. So this became very exciting because I love bringing science and spirituality together. I have a family of scientists and scholars. In English, my mother was an English teacher, and my brother was a scientist, and his wife's a scientist. And so I love marrying these two worlds, the mystical world, which is what I'm a part of, and the science world. So we're going to take a moment here and listen to what Joe has to say. And I will be providing the links to all of these YouTube videos so you can see the whole video at your leisure and study, take it more into your heart.
You're just thinking equal to everything that you know, and you keep creating more of the same. To change, to truly change, is to think greater than your environment. And every great person in history knew this, whether it was William Wallace or Mahatma Gandhi or Martin Luther King or Queen Elizabeth I or Joan of Arc. They all had a vision. They all had an idea. Couldn't see it, couldn't smell it, couldn't taste it, couldn't feel it, but it was alive in their mind.
See, and what we need to put on that list is Mary Magdalene, where she had a vision, right? So that is something that we've totally missed out on, is how her vision was the part of the process that made her an enlightened woman.
It was so alive in their mind that they began to live as if that reality was actually happening now. So can you believe in a future that you can't see or experience with your senses yet, but you've thought about enough times in your mind that your brain is literally changed to look like the event has already happened? Neuroscience says it's absolutely possible. Now, your personality creates your personal reality. That's it. It's that simple. And your personality is made up of how you think, how you act, and how you feel. So the present personality who's sitting here today, you, has created the present personal reality called your life. Would you agree? Would you also agree then, if you wanted to create a new personal reality, that on a fundamental level, you would have to change the thoughts that you are thinking, the behaviors and habits that you're demonstrating, and the emotions that you've memorized that's become...
We're going to stop right there. And because there's a lot that he's already spoken of that we want to take in, but basically it's the thoughts you think, the actions you take. Those are the important ones to remember that make up your personality. This one here, what you think,
and how you feel,
So, which creates the emotions that are usually, if you're acting below the line, are going to be negative emotions, and they will dictate the. Hold on here. So this book, and of course, you remember from what I just shared with you, what did Magdalene first say? She said, "I had a vision." See. And for Joe Dispenza, vision is everything. So this book was almost banned, is a banned book. It is a banned book. They're still burning it in some areas of the world. And it was almost lost to you. Even the missing pages, even with the missing pages, we can still piece together her level of mastery. However, because this book is connected to source, is connected to a part of the divine mind, there are ways to access the information about what is on the missing pages. And I'm going to show you how in a little bit, and why we have some access to some information. And so on page 8, which we're going to start to, this is one of my favorite sections in the Gospel Room, because it shows quantum science. You got to think about this. This was written, 1,800 years ago or something like that. I mean, it was written a long time. I will cover when it was written and all that in the next class. But so the first thing on page 8 is attachment to matter gives rise to passion against nature. Thus, trouble arises in the whole body. This is why I tell you to be in harmony. See, the reason why we're having trouble with our bodies is all this below the line thinking, right? But being above the line, being in love, being in peace, being in joy, all of those emanate hormones in our system that produce wellness and healing. So if you're out of balance, what do? To get it back in balance, you take inspiration from the manifestations of your true nature. Now, this is a gold mine. this one sentence. And it's the crux of all the success that Dr. Joe has had in actually putting people into remissions in many cases. But it's only for those who have ears. Let them hear. You see, that's a really critical part. So, and part of the reason is because seeing in the normal sense comes from with the body's eyes. So I see you and the light comes in, it runs to the back of my eyeball. It creates an electrical chemical interaction that goes up to my brain, and it searches high and low for what does this mean, this image that is before me. And then I begin my below the line evaluations. First, I'm judging, is it safe to be here? Or should I flee? Should I fight? Should I freeze? What's going on? Oh, okay, it's okay. But then I might feel like a victim. I might be in some fear because I don't really know what's happening and I want to have a predictable future. So I'll hold on to these ideas that are from my past. So seeing with the body's eyes, you see only the past. And that's a problem, and that's what gets us into trouble. So Joe says that we should take note when we're noticing or below the line to identify the thoughts that you're thinking. So if you can write them down as they come up and you go, wait a minute, this is a fear thought. So that means I'm below the line. Or this is a thought, I'm blaming somebody for my experience in my environment. So you just write the thoughts down. You don't judge them. You just write them down because you want to get conscious about them and you allow yourself to feel them. And when you allow yourself to feel them, it puts you above the line right away, because allowing puts you in acceptance. Okay, this is what happened. This is what I was thinking, and this is what I was feeling. No judgment. So when we go through that, we have a moment where we become, we as the Course says, you become the decision maker. You move into a point of choice. When you can make choice, then you can choose love or fear. And so that's part of our awakening process, is learning to choose love instead of fear. And when we choose love, we find that a whole world opens up to us. And we no longer have to have excuses or vagueness, or we now become clear about what it is we want and what do we want to create. Instead of, as Joe says, our conditioning of living in these below the line thoughts creates the world that we don't want to live. So why do we want to keep doing it? Because it's comfortable, because we've been doing it, it's predictable. We know that this is something that we've done. So when you go into higher thoughts, you create a fluid state of consciousness, and you begin to detach from matter and become what is like a particle or a wave. So as you see this fabric of life, and you see that the little dots are like the particles, and then they go away, and then you become in an elevated, expanded state of yourself. You become more fluid, you become relaxed, and these are almost like what happens with different brain waves that take us to these places. So remember, we saw the sentence, when you're out of balance, how do you get in balance? Take inspiration from the manifestation of your true nature. So take inspiration. We've all had moments of inspiration. I was a little girl. I used to run down to the beach on a full moon night, and we would run up and down the beach singing Broadway musicals and in the glory of this. It was fabulous. And it would give us this elevated sense, and we'd be so inspired. It was so glorious. So you have to remember a time when you manifested an inspired, elevated feeling. So what is, you take inspiration from the manifestation of your true nature, means you have to remember a time when you felt peace and joy. And Joe has a video, which I'm going to show you a clip of, that specifically says you want to access that memory, because accessing that memory is the portal to the field. So how to become supernatural, which we know Magdalene was, right? So,
when you connect to the field, when you connect to the divine, whatever you want to call it, when your consciousness merges with a greater consciousness, and that arousal creates ecstasy, bliss, oneness, whatever you want to call that, you realize that it never came from anything out there. It didn't come from the wardrobe or the facelift, the sports car, or whatever. It came from within you. And so you stop looking out there for it. And now the love affair begins. And you never want to miss a date because it's just too good. So that memory then, that is what I'm after. And you never want to miss a date because it's just too good. So that memory then, that is what I'm after. Because when you have those transcendental moments and you understand this, the experience of that transcendental moment lays down new circuitry in the brain. That's what experience does. And the experience produces a feeling, but it's not chemical. It's electric and it's orderly, and every cell of your body is jiggling in an order. And you're aroused and you're awakened, right? You have to admit, when that occurs, your spectrum of reality is going to broaden. Some conditioning, some illusion, something is removed, and you start seeing reality as it is. And all of a sudden, you start seeing the part that we edit out for survival. Now you start seeing patterns and lights and information that are transcendent of three-dimensional reality in your spectrum. Why? Because your brain had the experience and the circuitry's there, and now your experience of the world changes. You get an up.
All right. So that's how we shift and get our world to change from the manifestations of things that we've already manifested in our lives that are held in memory. It was a time we felt happy, time we were joyful, we were playing, we lost track of time, we just said we're having so much fun. Those qualities of peace and love and joy we've all had. And if somebody insists, oh, I've never had that, you can have the longing for it. You can go into it through the longing of it. I'm longing for love. What would that be like to have love? And you can enter in the portal that way. So, attachment to matter. Remember, we're attached to matter. We're attached to 3D reality. This gives rise to passion against our nature, our true nature, and thus trouble arises in the whole body because of our attachment, our mental constructed attachment to the matter. Rather than, so this is why I tell you, he's telling you, be in harmony, get above the line. You want to get above the line because instead of having those rain clouds come in and the storms and the scary things happen, you want to be above the line. So being above the line is where you're feeling acceptance and joy and love, and you're in the solution, or solutions come. Like I had a solution come this morning, that we were trying to solve this problem between my neighbor and I. And then all of a sudden, the perfect solution came in. So you just have these solutions come to you that are perfect because you're connected to source. That is first cause, right? And now we have the science behind that to really help us to understand why it's like we're going to get above the line. So Joe Dispenza is now joined with HeartMath Institute and doing research on brain and heart coherence, right? That is really awesome research about how to be in the heart, because Magdalene is all about the heart. So when you look at these heart, I guess they're cardiograms, where they're measuring the heart rate, and somebody's in frustration, oh my God, it's like the heart is definitely not looking good. But when you move above the line into appreciation, gratitude, peace, love, joy, then suddenly the heart becomes coherent. It becomes rhythmic, smooth, easeful, graceful, and it runs more efficiently, and you're saving energy. while your system is being restored, because now it's free to release the hormones for healing. Whereas when you're in fight, flight, or flight, that's not a time to try to get creative, right? That's a time to like deal with the perceived threat. So becomes really important. So we have these different levels of brainwave activity that they measure them all. The gamma, which is intense concentration and learning, is a very high frequency vibration. It's what they call the superconscious. Then you have the beta, which is our waking, problem solve, engaged state, but it can be conscious or unconscious. And there's actually many levels, and he goes into quite more detail about the different levels of beta. And then alpha is when we're starting to relax and recharge, and that now we're dropping into a more subconscious way of operating. So, and our subconscious runs our body. You know, it has received programming. We don't have to think about how to breathe or how the heart beat. And then we go into theta, which is dreaming, autopilot, kind of just taking things. Sometimes when I go shopping, I'm in theta, just wandering the store in a dream-like state. Oh, I gotta have this, I gotta have that. Not a good place to be. And then, of course, delta, we're finally asleep. So another way of looking at it, if we're going from sleeping and we're waking up, you have these windows of opportunity in the theta state, which is very close to some of the experiences that you can have in gamma. Because gamma, when it's fully consciously cultivated and developed through meditation, is really what we're calling the awakened Christ consciousness state of being. So let's go back to this page 7, Gospel of Mary Magdalene. What is matter? And will it last forever? Was the disciples were asking the teacher, and the teacher answered. And he said, all that is born, all that is created, all the elements of nature, earth, air, fire, water, 3D form, reality, are interwoven and united with each other. They're all one. There's no separation. It's all a part of the great all of life. So here is where the quantum things, all the elements of nature, well, the primary element is the atom, right? Electrons and protons and one other spiraling around the nucleus of an atom. But let's take a look at it. For example, we take the element water, which is H2O, right? Let's just take the H part, the hydrogen, which supposedly it consists of a single proton and a single electron. If you take the single proton and measure it, it's like the size of a ping pong ball. In that dimension of size, to see how far away is the electron, it's 4,040 feet away, or 13 and a half football fields away. Now, you probably heard this. So we're really very spacious, folks. There's more spaciousness than anything. So then you have E equals mc squared. It's the world's most famous equation, but what does it really mean? And this is really interesting. Energy equals mass times the speed of light squared. One of the most basic levels, the equation says that energy and mass are interchangeable. Didn't we just read in the Gospel of Mary Magdalene that it said it's interchangeable? They are different forms of the same thing, which means they're one. Right? Now, if you go to the next level, it's called string theory. This proposes that the smallest unit of matter is composed of tiny vibrating strands of energy called strings. So this is when matter becomes energy. All things, all that is composed shall be decomposed. Everything returns to its root. Matter returns to the origins of matter. Well, what is the origins of matter? We just learned and we just saw E equals mc squared. It's energy, waves, light. So those who have ears, let them hear. So higher thoughts create the fluid state. Intention detached from matter becomes a wave. So in our meditation, in our ability to rise above, when it rises above, it becomes more fluid. And that's why this gamma level is a really outstanding level, because it gets you into being in a vibrational frequency. And even the way the frequency of the thing was much higher. And that's when you have people having mystical experiences. So I found this was really great. This is called the shoestring theory, right? How all souls are connected. In other words, occupy physics, right? That a little humor would be great, right? So what is matter? And then he goes on and he says, it is the interwoven and united with each other. It's like, and here's some graphics that were done by scientists who are trying to show this interweaving and united with each other, like how energies are connected, the string theory and the atoms and electrons, and the way that they're all connected. So all that is composed shall be decomposed. Everything returns to its root. Matter returns to the origin of matter. What is the origin of matter? Energy. Because we're all one, right? And those who have ears, let them hear. So that's from over 2,000, close to 2,000 years ago, folks. What is that energy? Sound waves. In the beginning was the Word, right? And the Word was with God. So that's another way of saying it. And this is another wonderful quote of Joe's and a foundation of his thing in regard to quantum physics. If we wait for anything outside of us to make us happy, we are not following the quantum law. We are relying on the outer to change the inner. So when you're trying to change matter to matter, it's like struggle, effort, hard work. It can change over time, but it takes time because it's done in the dimension of time. So when we wait for anything outside of us to make us happy, then we are not following the quantum law. We are relying on the outer to change the inner. So this is one of the pages that I thought was so apropos. It's page 12. Now 11 through 16 are missing according to, or 15 are missing according to the Gospel of Mary Magdalene based on the actual papyrus that we have. But this was channeled from the secret teachings of Mary Magdalene. And what it says is that it is with the vision of the notes that we overcome the without in. To me, it's like, how fitting is that? We overcome the without within. We have to go within to make a change, because that's where God resides. That's where we are connected to Source. The Father within does the work, right? So, of course, she had to have learned this, and this is what she knew. That's why she went to Jesus and she said, I had a vision, and I saw the teacher. I saw you, Jesus. And who is the teacher? The teacher is the one who did the work, the Father within. He's the one who knew that he was one with God. And because there was no doubt in his mind, he was free from ego separating him. He is in the state of oneness. Therefore, he was involved in infinite possibilities. So that's why miracles could happen without any problems. The Course in Miracles also validates this, because it also says the body's eyes see separation and only the past. And to know oneness comes from a vision of our divine mind. So if we want to know our oneness, if we want to have the true knowing, the gnosis, which is what the Gospel of Mary Magdalene is, a Gnostic teaching, we have to know oneness. And so we have to stop looking with our body's eyes. Because when we see with our body's eyes, what do we see? We see only below the line. And in order to get above the line, what do we have to do? We have to start having true vision. We have to start seeing by looking within and seeing the vision. What is the vision? Joe says that, when People wake up half the time, they don't have a vision for their future. So they wake up and they immediately go to the problems of the below the line problems. And then they wonder why their life doesn't get any better, because that's what is driving the creation of their reality instead of going into the visioning. And this is a comment that Jean Leloup, who translated the Coptic version of the Gospel of Mary, where it was discovered as Coptic, and then he translated it to French. And he says, the teacher himself made it clear, your happiness is the consequence of your actions. Remember, Joe was talking about actions, and your actions are the consequences of your choice. What you do takes you further away from your true nature, because you're below the line. You're not looking at your true nature. You're not embracing your true nature. So vision of oneness happens in the gamma brainwaves area that's why we have to meditate, because that's how we're able to elevate ourselves into a brainwave coherent state and have this kind of mystical experience. It moves us out of the past and detaches us from matter. And you remember back in the beginning, we talked about what is the first things? Attachment to matter is one of our primary problems, right? So you can go back and watch this later again, and you'll see it all there. So we have to understand.
A little bit about brainwaves. You ready? You geniuses? Beta brainwaves. When you are waking consciousness, and you wake up in the morning, and your eye starts to perceive daylight, the moment your eye picks up daylight, the optic nerve sends a signal right to the pineal gland, and the pineal gland begins to make a neurotransmitter called serotonin. And serotonin, the neocortex, begins to slow its brain waves down, and your brain waves move into alpha. And in alpha, that's the imaginary world where the inner world is more real than the outer world. You could still hear the outer world, you could sense it, but more of your attention is in the inner world. How many people are with me? Now, if you allow your body to fall asleep and your mind is awake, that's called theta. That's what I call twilight. Now, if you condition your body to be the mind and your body is now asleep, it means it's no longer the mind, which means instantaneous change can happen. And when we studied our students in long meditation, we see these huge bursts of theta, really long, profound bursts of theta, and they are in the netherworld. And their body is resting and their mind is awake. They're dreaming in that state. Now, if you miss that window and you miss that door, you move into delta. And delta is deep restorative sleep. Now, every now and then, we see this in our work a lot of times, you'll see what we call gamma brainwaves. Now, I call gamma brainwaves super consciousness. And when that kundalini energy that's sitting in those lower centers that you use for sexual expression, to digest your food, all the energy you need to drive aggressively or tell your coworker off or being chased by a predator, all the energy that's sitting in these lower centers, instead of being eliminated out, begins to move up. When that energy begins to move up, that sympathetic nervous system switches on right with the parasympathetic nervous system, and the body is relaxed. And just like an orgasm, that energy begins to release up into the brain. And there's a little gate at the brain stem called the thalamic gate. And the moment that gate opens up, that energy begins to move right into the pineal gland. And the pineal gland is sensitive to pressure. And all of a sudden, that pineal gland gets a rush of energy and it compresses and it begins to release electromagnetic energy. And the pineal gland begins to take melatonin and turn it into some very profound neurotransmitters. And we have measured amplitudes of energy in our work 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times, 26,000 times, 40,000 times normal in the brain. And that's because when that neurotransmitter is released and that electrical current begins to activate the nervous system, all of a sudden you're tuning in to possibility. And now the brain and nervous system is processing a greater stream of consciousness. And those microtubules in the cells turn on. If you take that same molecule, tweak it again, you'll find the most powerful hallucinogenic known to man. Now, why is that important? Because the moment that occurs in gamma, what you're experiencing in your inner world is more real than anything you've ever experienced in your outer world, and you'll never forget that moment. And the brain literally tracks it neurologically and produces a new chemical, and the moment that occurs, the body moves out of the past. We have seen people heal themselves instantaneously when this energy is released. So then, gamma then, super consciousness, it's when the sympathetic nervous system begins to release energy back to the brain, and all the energy you've used to create a baby, to digest food, to run from a predator, now moving up to the brain from whence it came. And when that occurs, the brain goes into a heightened state. That's called gamma.
So I just want to insert here that when Magdalene actually achieved that gamma state, because she was doing the inner work, and she reached that point where she was able to vision and know that she was one with God. After that experience happened to her, she went to Jesus. And that's what the Gospel of Mary Magdalene is telling us the story about. She goes to Jesus and she says, I had a vision. I saw the teacher. It was like the teacher representing the oneness, the face of God, that I knew I was one with God. And so she's explaining her gamma state to Jesus. And then he looks back at her and goes, oh my God, because he can tell from looking at her, something has shifted, something has changed. So we'll continue on here. So there you have it, folks. That's why we meditate, right? Or move into doing that inner work. And this after we go through our vision process, because we're going to connect together. So we're going to actually go through a process of taking inspiration. We're going to remember the time that we were feeling this joy, this peace, this love, so that we can begin to identify our vision and move into an elevated state with our vision. So I want to show you one more clip of Joe talking about becoming the elevated state of emotion. This is being in spirit, inspiration, and why you want to access it with something that's above the line. And some of you may be thinking, oh, I have a vision of what I want to do. Great. But some of you may think, oh, I don't even know what my vision is. It's okay. You can pick anything that you want above the line. So if you want more clarity, or if you want abundance, anything from above the line, you can pick that. So we're going to just learn a little bit about what he has to say about the elevated emotions.
Well, think about this. The number one feeling that we feel when our life begins to change, or we begin to have feedback from our environment that what we're doing inside of us is producing an effect outside of us, the most common emotion that we feel is a love for life, a joy for existence, grateful, a real deep sense of gratitude. Now think about the emotional signature of gratitude. The emotional signature of gratitude means that something has already happened. When you receive something, or when you're given something, or you are in the process of receiving or have received it, you give thanks. So the moment you start feeling this emotion of appreciation and thankfulness, you will automatically say thank you, which means I've just received something. I'm acknowledging that I'm receiving it from you. So most people live their lives waiting for something outside of them to change how they feel inside of them.
See, and we're not going to do that, right? Because we're going to go right into what it is that we want to have, not waiting for it, but actually learning how to be it. So, oops.
Well, think about it.
So let's go through one last section of the word. See, we're still just on these. We're doing 7 and 8, and we haven't even gotten to 6, or we have so much. And you see how much is here. The teacher answers a question. There is no sin. If you make sin exist when you act according to the habits of your corrupted nature, you making sin exist. And what did Joe say? It's the thoughts you think. So when you thinking that I'm a sinner or that I've done something wrong, and when you act according to the habits, so it's your actions, right, of your corrupted neighbors, it becomes habitual. And this is where we get attached to matter, because we're so conditioned to feeling bad, to thinking we're bad, to not feeling worthy, to not being willing to step into joy, that this has corrupted us. So that's why we don't have really powerful, sacred, holy women. I mean, we have some who have awakening, and more of us are beginning to awaken. But it's a really tough thing for women to awaken, because, you know, when you think about it, when my mother was born, we didn't even have the right to vote. So we were considered property and owned by the men. And we didn't get money in our own names until I was in my early 20s. And so for a lot of us, we're habituated, and this has corrupted our experiences of our true nature. So this is why Magdalene's saying, or Jesus is saying, this is why the good has come into your midst. It acts with the elements of your nature, of your true nature, right? It acts together with the love that you are, the peace that you are, so as to reunite it with its roots. So what are the roots of matter? What is the origin of matter? Remember we talked about going back to the origin? Being energy, higher frequency, love and light, right? And this is why you become sick and why you die. It's a result of your actions that take you further away from your true nature instead of bring you towards your true nature, right? So what is taking you further away from your heart? No, you want to move towards your heart. You want to get above the line, right? And be in love. So what is your vision? What is the thing that makes your day, that gives you joy, that brings you peace? This is your vision, so that you may overcome what is within you, so that you can do this. So we're going to cover a couple more points, and then we're going to actually break, so give you a chance to write your vision. Joe says that when a person starts feeling the emotions of their future, in that instant, their heart begins to respond very differently. So when you tap in to the truth of who you are and allow yourself, remember, allowing bumps you automatically up into the above the line state. This allows you to begin to respond very differently, and things begin to open up. So we take that vision. You need to identify what is your vision. And then we take inspiration. What experience have you had that you've manifested, that you've already had it, or you've longed for it? That's a part of your true nature. Because you see, in A Course in Miracles, the year-long text is just about removing the blocks and the obstacles to love presence. So once we begin to clear them away, and then we go, oh, I can choose fear or I can choose love. I think I'll choose love. I think I'll do the loving thing. I think I'll forgive, right? So then you go into that state. So what is your vision? That's what we need to know. And what we'd like you to do is to get with your partner. We're gonna take a chance. And if you're watching the replay, then you just stop this for a moment and take an opportunity to write out what your vision is. And remember your inspiration. So what inspiration would match? And elevate the feeling level of this motion so that you can immediately, right here and right now, put yourself in an elevated state with your vision identified and the feeling nature done. And then you're going to share it with someone. So if you share it with your partner, the partner is not going to critique it or evaluate it or judge it or anything. That's all below the line, right? The partner is simply going to share with you how it touched their heart. Because that's the purpose of it. When we identify our true nature, we share it and extend it. And it's extending that love. That's what's important. So now we're going to take time to do your vision part. Thank you. All right. So, well, you guys just witnessed my vision coming true, to be able to have the opportunity to extend and share this wonderful information. I hope you enjoyed that and found that insightful. And, we've just barely, we're just a couple pages in. We're not even, to me, there's so much richness in that. If we can just do what they're talking about. So we're going to break into breakout rooms where you're partnered. And if you don't know what your vision is, you can pick one of the above the line things. And I'll to remind you again, I'll share with you the above the line. This is any one of these things that resonates with you, that you would like to have as a part of your vision. So the vision is not, I want a new car, I want a new house, I want a new relationship. The vision is, I want love. And then out of being loving and sharing, extending that loving, it'll encompass loving relationships. It'll encompass. It's just the nature of what will manifest out of that. So it's really going for the quality of God. And it gives you and then identifying the feeling nature. So really the work of the Magdalene is bringing forth in front of you, so that when you arise and awake in the morning, your vision of being heaven on earth, living in an enlightened state of the higher frequencies, has to come bubbling up forefront, present with you. And then you step into your vision, and then your vision, you watch magical things will begin to happen. Synchronicities will start happening. The person that knows how to direct you to the healing you need will be there, and the teacher appears right when the student is ready. So it's a very simple but very wonderful process. So
that was a lot of videos to weave in. It worked beautifully the way you did it.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I know. I needed to.
Yeah, it was excellent.
You and your husband have been very masterful at manifesting visions. You had the vision of your bed and breakfast and your book.
Yeah. Yes.
That's beautiful.
Our hotel was definitely a manifestation.
Well, one of these days I'm going to be able to come up and relax and enjoy it.
Yeah.
Yeah. A little vacation.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm looking forward to doing more retreats here too. I've had some other people offering retreats, and it's a lovely space.
So my vision is basically to move more and more into my heart and be a force for love. And just to, especially with the war going on, I just want to embody more and more love and a deeper sense of peace, and reflect that out to people, and become a peacekeeper, peacemaker, and really help and assist people in maintaining a very high level of peace. Because the Course says that when we go into the elevated higher self, embodied higher sense of a higher self, a higher consciousness, we're above the battlefield, so to speak.
Yeah.
And so that becomes really, really important.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, my vision has been similar. I love hearing you say that, and knowing you as I've experienced you, you seem like you're already doing that.
Yeah. Well,
I feel that from you.
It's really interesting though, that in the daunting task of preparing this talk, it's like I was constantly having to go to the upper room, because it was quite intense. The whole to speak peace, to be peace, to vibrate peace, to hold that.
Yeah, I completely relate. It's feeling like I want to be in that spacious, expanded presence. And I've been going through a lot of back-end technology changes.
So we're just going to open it up for any questions, any responses. What struck you about the talk? We're just opening it up and get everybody in here. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We're just going to open it up for what hit you in any reflections or any questions anyone might have, any sharing that you might want to share, any inspirations that anyone has.
To share just and to celebrate like the interconnectedness of life in this experience. I was led, just unbeknownst to me, but to do a 40-day purification process before the spring equinox. And I was led by Mary Magdalene to do it. And she's like, it's not about the food. Don't worry. Cleanse your body because we're moving into a new solar year, right? And the pineal gland activates, spreading the sign of Aries and all this. But really capture every thought, hold it captive and raise it up. And I'm like, so for 40 days and hearing your presentation, right? And seeing it and hearing it from your voice and your lens and your heart, I realized like the grace of like the divine coming through us at this time. And now is the time for us to walk this path.
Yeah.
Like it's so clear. So I don't know if that made any sense, but I was just.
Yes, we need a few more holy, sacred women and Divine Mother devotees.
Absolutely, we're here, and thank you.
Yeah, it's like, oh my God, with the more of us that can achieve the level of mastery that Magdalene. I mean, you notice she didn't go away, right? They tried to suppress her. They tried to not have us find out about what she did. But it's come out and now it's being revealed. And that's why, how did you like the way the science was interplaying with the different sentences from anybody have any thoughts they want to share about? Yes, Jane.
I love Joe Dispenza. I watched his whole Rewired series and I love how you integrated it too with the science and the heart.
Yeah. Yeah. Because see, when she went to him, it says very simply, she says, I saw you in a vision. And then she came to him to tell him. And I'm thinking to myself, whoa, she had a gamma brainwave experience. You know, I mean, I'm assuming that, but it seems pretty evident from all that happened that, and of course, you know, the Course in Miracles backs it up because the Course in Miracles basically says that in the Manual for Teachers, it talks about those who have seen the face of God have the ability to interface with us now on this planet, and that we are terrified of awakening because our separated self or our separated world is created by the egoic mind that's below the line. So our mind is literally split in two, the below the line stuff and the above the line. But we're supposed to be happy. God wants us to be happy. And we're supposed to be living in joy. We're supposed to be taking inspiration from the manifestations of our true nature, right? Which means we'd be singing and dancing. So my vision is that the people in Russia will be singing and dancing in the streets, right? That we will come to know peace, but we claim it, we know it, we bring it forth. So anyway, this is a piece of it. And you know, I wanted to continue the dive and work with a group and go through the classes, but we have coming up on April 17th, our 12th annual Magdalene Moonrise Service, the Easter celebration, both of which Claire's going to be a part of that. And and Anasuya is going to be a part of that. And we're going to have a fabulous heart coherent, emanation of pure love. So, and I'm calling it the awakening of the sleeping lady, right? Because it's time for us to wake up. It's time for us to join together, collaborate together, stand in our power, stand in our truth, emanate and extend our love and do that. And so that's what we've got cooking. And then of course I got to get my taxes done. So I was like, so I'm going to delay the second class, and I need more time to promote it. And it took me a lot to go through, find these clips, it was way more work than I thought it would be. So I'm going to delay the start of the second class. Give me some time to promote it and everything till the end of April. So I will send you out. Let me know if you're interested, and I'd be happy to send you out the information as it comes together. But I am very grateful to all of you, because this has been my vision to bring what impacted me so much. So anyway, we've got like 1 minute left before we'll be done. And does anyone else want to share any comments or anything that inspired you? Yeah, go ahead, Pamela.
Oops, I just wanted to say thank you. But also when you were speaking about, of course, sound, we went to the sound and the different gamma level states. And that gamma, which is where you have these experiences, which is between 34 and 100 hertz, that the caves, like all the sacred caves, one of the things that they found in those caves, if that is the resonant frequency of those caves, that 100 hertz to 110 hertz. So that's, of all the different aspects with the Virgin Mary and the caves and Magdalene and this, that, and the other. It's just very interesting that that's a connection also, with that. I love what you said with everything. So thank you, Christy, and I'll keep.
Yeah. Pamela is one of the ones that has the ears to hear. She's a sound healer. So appreciate that. She's studied the sacred geometry of sound and all of that very above and beyond what I have any understanding. But I also love that the Gospel of Mary Magdalene had quantum physics right in it. Like, give me a break, folks. The scientists when did quantum physics theory come into the limelight? The last 20 years.
Divine Mother. That's who she is, the creatress. It's all about, that's that creation unfolding.
Yeah.
Well, the discoverers of quantum
physics never went anywhere.
The discoverers of quantum physics thought that a lot of their ideas were foreshadowed in Vedanta Hinduism, and both of them wound up eventually joining the Vedanta Society because they saw so much harmony between those ideas and what they'd worked out.
Yeah, very good. Very well.
Some of the old Hindu scriptures, of course, the Gospel of Mary Magdalene hadn't been discovered. But they definitely did see the connection with some of the old Hindu texts.
Well, they tried very hard to ban her, suppress her, put it in a jar in a cave was the best that they could do. Like, look, maybe somebody will find these jars. And of course, what happened when they found the jars? They started burning the manuscripts as rubbish, right? Let's just use this as coal for the fire. But fortunately, some intervention happened. And it really took Carl Jung being given a gift of the Gospel of Mary Magdalene for his birthday that made headlines like, whoa, there's a Gospel of Mary Magdalene.
Is that the one he got? I wasn't sure exactly which Gnostic text.
He got the Gospel of Mary. So that'll all be in the next class. I'll go more into the details of all of that. And there's more mysticism awaiting us all, including me, because I never know what she's going to do with me. So I'm excited and looking forward to it. So hopefully I will see all of you at Easter on April 17th, Sunday afternoon from 4 to 6, and it'll be online. Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. It's going to be lovely.
Blessings. So wonderful to see all of you. Thank you for joining us. Blessed be. Take care.
Wonderful class. I look forward to the replay.
Christy, just before you go, if we want to carry on, then do you want?
And you can also sign up and get on my newsletter on my website, and then you'll get the announcements. I do that every month on the 22nd. So it's a rotating
Also, it was
day.
yesterday. Darn.
It was yesterday. Yep. Yeah.
Just before I came into class, I was guided to put a red egg on my prayer altar.
Oh, yeah.
And so I just wanted to mention it because it is an Eastern Orthodox tradition, and there seems to be something about it holding the resurrection energy for Ukraine and Russia as well.
Yeah.
So I just want to bring it up in case it calls out to anybody.
Yeah.
The story's easy to find, and there are lots of beautiful pics online as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and thank you, Christy. Sometime I hope we can tell each other our stories, because
Yes, I very much
you
love
just
to hear it.
pulled 5 predominant life pieces for me all together, and it's really powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, I'm looking forward to it. I'm so glad you joined us. How did you find out about us?
Well, Mary called me and she asked me to teach in her church. I was literally driving down a highway and I saw a statue of her, and she said, "Come to my church." So I drove there and I'm sitting underneath. I'd had a whole experience with Mary in France, which is another story altogether.
Yeah.
But she said, "I want you to teach my church." So I took her literally. I thought she meant in that church was a Catholic church. So I met with the priest and I said, "I want to teach this Gospel of Mary, and I wanted, she called me to your church." And he's like, "You're some mystical nut bar."
Oh, no.
Meanwhile, I'd been to the church the week before and he'd done this talk on the Transfiguration. And when he did it, Yeshua dropped down and sat beside me and he said, "I'm going to side teach you," because he's giving you kind of half of it, right? And so we're sitting back there and I said, "I was here last week and I heard your thing." And I said, there's another mystical understanding I was given. And so the priest said to me, "Well, as priests, we're taught that there's teachings for the priests and there's teaching for the sheep." And
Right.
he said, "The teaching that you're sharing with me is the priest's teaching. How come you know it?" And I said, "Well, like Yeshua told me." Right. And he's like, "No, that doesn't happen."
Right.
So anyway, all this long, convoluted story. I came home and Mary says, "Well, did you have fun?" I said, "Yeah." She says, "I want you to teach in my church, the body of my church, not a physical church." And I've been working with Joe's work in HeartMath for quite a bit of time now, but I hadn't figured out how to pull Magdalene's church in.
Yeah.
So
now you find magical, it right there.
yeah, lots of beautiful alchemy and quite a bit longer story. If you ever want to go to France to find Mary, I know exactly where she is.
Okay, do tell. What city is she in? Or what cave?
Well, for me, she was in Allée-les-Bains, and in the Pyrenees. She walked there, taught there, left her essence in the water there.
How do you spell that?
Allée-les-Bains, Alets, Les Bains, Lesbins. And I'm happy to talk to anybody about that anytime.
Yeah.
Yes, I would love that.
Yeah.
Anasuya is a scholar in the whole Black Madonna, and she's traveled all through Europe and visiting the various sites. And so she holds the energy of the mother in a wonderful way.
Thank you.
I went with a few women for fun, and the night before I left, Mary appeared, and she just took us on the most unbelievable journey. Like serendipity and Isis. Crazy. It was so powerful.
Well, that's what starts to happen when you learn how to access these gamma brainwaves and going into, it's like all of a sudden things start showing up and synchronicities happen and solutions get offered that wow, I never would have thought of that. And I'm going to share some of those in the classes coming up of things that have happened to me. And I know that she's preparing more. I can feel it, I was like, I have no clue, but she will orchestrate the way for me and make it. So, and of course,
it's happening it's happening in ways that we couldn't have never anticipated and had always hoped for, but seemed so unrealistic.
And see, Susan, what you just shared about the priest telling you, oh no, only the priest can know.
Uh-huh.
You know,
Yeah.
that's the work that we're doing in unraveling, because
It was a really good teaching for me. It's happened
Yeah.
a few times where I've taken things literally, and it was a really good teaching. And I was like, wow, you think your people are sheep. Well, that's the beginning of the problem.
Oh, that's the church, though.
Yeah.
yeah.
Although what's interesting about that too is that Mary Magdalene was called the shepherdess. You know, that's kind of one of her hidden names. And so there's a dishonorable, obviously, way to see that, but there's also some esoteric background to it as well.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, she had no fear about following Jesus. She was the one that was like hanging on every word he was saying, and was really taking it in and doing the work. You know, the next class we're going to go through the what I've discovered, or what she's shown me about her step-by-step process of how she meditated to get to that gamma place. And so we'll go into the journey of that for ourselves, so that we can begin to meditate in the way that produces joy.
Yeah.
And have our own divine connection, right? I mean, you can see why I do this work. Look at me. I'm so radiating and illuminated, right? I was like, get me back to this place as fast as you can.
Christy, you're contagious, you know. I mean, I
she is.
no sooner logged on, because I've done a lot of work over the years, that no sooner logged on that I felt this wash. I'm sure it was Claire also, and Anasuya being there, and because I've listened to you too through Christy's work, but the field that was set just logging on was palpable.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I hope you get a chance to go back and rewatch this, because what has been happening, because I had to go over it and over it and over it and find the different clips and find the passages and so it's like, that was a lot of work.
Yeah.
And yet
It's service. It's not work. It's service.
Yeah.
Knock it off.
Yeah. Thank you, dear. In fact, it's funny because in the beginning, when I bring Joe Dispenza on and I say, Joe Dispenza, meet Mary Magdalene, she would have been your A student. I caught myself afterwards, and I was going to say something, but it was like, she wasn't an A student. She was the leader.
Right. He would have been her A student.
Yeah, exactly.
You have only managed to figure out. And then when he was making that list of Mahatma Gandhi and Martin Luther King and all these great people, they're all men, right?
Right.
Everybody. Yeah. You're talking about the gospel of Mary Magdalene. You're talking about what the Magdalene did, and it's why she won't go away, why she keeps becoming more and more of a powerful presence.
That's right.
And that's why I call my business the Magdalene Impact, because she's starting to impact more and more women as we allow ourselves to step in and open to, I am sacred, I am holy, and claim it and let it be okay. That in fact, we want it. We don't want war. We want peace. You know, so we've got to be the peace, right? In order to start living above the battlefield, and then showing others how to live above the battlefield. And then the rest of it is we just get to play and have fun and sing and dance. And
what Magdalene showed me earlier this evening was she was instrumental in anchoring the Christ force on earth.
Yeah, she anointed him.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Her and those ladies, the ones who were there.
She was the entry vessel.
Yeah.
She was the entry vessel, which is the
we always see her as the student of him. What if she was really the teacher? That's really how I hope. I mean, they were co-teachers.
Once she did the work and she realized that she was one with God, then she was in a position. And as she grew into that, you know, I mean, when it says that he's the Messiah, the word Messiah means anointed one.
Yep.
So she had the wherewithal, the consciousness to understand that she was to anoint him. And what is anointing? Anointing is to deeply honor the sacred within oneself and within another. And it's done at the level of equality. It's not like I'm the priest and you're the low life, and I give you the sacrament and you take it because you're the sinner and you need to be saved. It's because we're equal and we're joining as one.
Yeah.
But what happens is, like in the unity movement and different things, they say, well, oneness is everything, right? It's all about oneness, right? Oneness, if the patriarchy is up here and the divine feminine is down here, it's not real. You have to raise up the divine feminine. Like, give us a break.
That's right.
Give us a chance.
It has to be raised up in order to be equal.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
And how many women struggle with low self-esteem, emotionally abusive relationships, all the stuff that we've gone through. And then the ability to learn how to rise out of victimhood, to rise up into up above the line, right? And start to claim our sacred self. And once we get up there, now we can come together with the divine sacred masculine.
It was all preparation for this work that's being done now. If I had gone through a lot of all of the same that you're just saying, Christy, I would never have been ready for all of this, deep lessons, some very tough, but I'm grateful for every single one of them because of what it's taught me.
Yes. Thank you so much, Claire.
Thank you.
I wish I could stay for the rest of this juicy conversation because this is what's happening.
That's what I'm hoping. That we will become the compassionate sport. Thanks so much, Claire.
Yeah.
Yeah. And thank you all for supporting me and joining and connecting. It's like it just makes my day. It's just, this is what I love to do, and this is what I want to bring forth in the world. And it's so great to meet you, Susan. I can see you're Magdalene Priestess for sure. And Anna Sophia, thank you for jumping on. Okay, thank you, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.